As Kisumu City thrives with a growing population and economic vitality, a sad narrative unfolds within its core, a story of environmental degradation and its widespread implications. Lake Victoria, the second largest freshwater lake in the world, is entangled in an unprecedented challenge, casting a shadow over the region's natural beauty. The critical resource of clean water, vital for both human sustenance and industrial progress, is under siege, particularly through the Auji waterway and river Kisat.
Sahii maji kitambo wavuvi walikuwa wanaichota na kikombe wanakunywa direct, lakini sahii mvuvi hawezi akakunywa hii maji jili ya uchafu ambao unatazama.
Upstream activities driven by human needs often take a toll on the environment. In Auji and Kisat, it's the familiar culprits: diapers, plastics, and untreated sewage. These elements, seemingly harmless, find their way into the rivers, eventually poisoning the majestic lake they feed into.
In Nyalenda, a number one challenge that we're having with pollution to the environment is the diapers menace that we talked about earlier. You know, with the advancement of life came about new ways of management of children and babies, you understand? So everyone seemed to have embraced diapers. We embrace diapers and yet we do not know how to manage diapers.
We also have some of us who are not making use of what the government, especially the county government, has brought to us. That is the garbage dumping sites which are there along river, along Ring Road. Some of us are not making use of that. That when I say some of us, I mean some residents of Nyalenda. So they throw this garbage here and there, and this one ends up.
Some of these environments may be affected because of the nature of the settlement, also because we will not see a similar circumstance in a high or medium income area as compared to the environmental socio-ecological issues that are arising in a low income settlement. The two streams both cut through a low and informal settlements and partly through a middle income section, especially for Auji.
Some of us do farm up to the brink of this river, the banks of the river. And that one also is not very helpful to us.
The people who border the river, Auji, Orowegwa, should be the first people doing conservation on it. But you find the irony is that the people polluting it.
As the pollution seeps into the lake, the entire ecosystem is thrown into disarray. Aquatic life faces the brunt of our negligence. Fish, once abundant, now struggle to survive in their habitat. Dr. Christopher Aura, the Director of Freshwater Systems at the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, offers insights into the scientific basis for this phenomenon. He emphasizes that habitat degradation, land use activities, and discharges into the rivers play a crucial role in altering water acidity, compelling fish to remain within specific niches. This alteration in the environment adversely impacts reproduction processes, ultimately resulting in the loss of biodiversity.
It's the man who induces stress on blue economy. It's the man who induces stress on a river. It's a man who induces stress on a lake or a wetland. How does he induce stress? He induces stress through what we call habitat degradation. When the habitat is losing shape. For example, it had a corner, but that corner has been slashed because somebody is building a house in a wetland. We call it a habitat degradation. The habitat is the environment. The habitat has been degraded. It has been slashed. It has lost its shape. It's the one it was having before. So that's the main consequence of human connection to the blue economy. That's one, habitat degradation. The other one would be called land use activities. So the land use can constitute habitat degradation, but land use here comes in the essence that, for example, when you are clearing the forests around you, you are in a way giving room for more carbon dioxide to be in the atmosphere. So what happens is that inside the lake or inside the river or inside the ocean, you are causing imbalance in terms of acidity. So in the end, the pH will change, and such that if this fish or this particular animal or this plant in the water is used to acidity, that acidity might be becoming more acidic, or it becoming more alkaline. So you expect that this particular organism now will come up with measures for survival. Some of these measures is that it will be going out lesser hours, lesser time to feed, and then staying more within, we call it a niche. Now, instead of now, for example, reproduction, it takes a lesser time to go for reproduction, but stays more indoor. The other issue would be on discharge, but some people would call it pollution. I'm looking at this because discharge covers so many aspects. If you are an agriculturalist upstream will mean above the river, because I'm looking at, for example, River Uji or River Kisat is entering into the lake, discharging into the lake. So in the end, there is some discharge coming from somebody who is staying up there, maybe in Mamboleo, because that's where Kisat comes from. Whatever activities he's doing, like for example, he's releasing feces into the lake, he's taking a shower using phosphorus soap. And by the way, our developing, I don't use the word developing countries, we've not banned use of phosphorus soap. So he's using phosphorus soap upstream. That phosphorus is coming in as nutrients. He's nutrifying, he's causing what we call nutrient enrichment. So when I'm talking about discharge, I'm looking at two aspects: pollution and nutrient enrichment.
The delicate balance of nature disrupted. The repercussions extend far beyond the lake's shores. The blue economy, once thriving, now faces depletion. Local fishermen, dependent on the lake for their livelihoods, find their nets emptier by the day.
Shida yenye tunaona kwa sasa vile maji ni chafu, samaki imepungua. Kama mwanabiashara wa samaki, kwa sahii samaki inakuja kwa low quantity, ambapo hata tukinunua haitusaidii kama kitambo. Samaki yenyewe ikitolewa kwa maji, hatuna maji safi ya kuiosha. Hii maji inaharibu sana hiyo samaki, ambapo usipoitengeneza kwa haraka uta lose value, utapata chochote kwa hiyo samaki juu inaharibika haraka.
The repercussions are not limited to the aquatic world. Human health is on the line, with both short-term and long-term effects looming large. Contaminated water poses a threat to the very communities that depend on the lake for sustenance.
Hili maji imechafuka sana, ambapo ukiingia kwa maji na mguu tupu bila hizi gumboot, unakuta unajikuna-kuna, au kuna ugonjwa ni kama kuna vidudu vidogo zinakuuma. Unakuta unajikuna mpaka itabidi uende hospitali ndio upewe dawa ya kupaka ama ya kumeza ndio hiyo kukuna ipungue.
After confirmation that the lake is polluted with heavy metals and microplastics, some of the likely health conditions that the population around Kisumu are likely to experience. One is developmental issues amongst children, example being autism, are very likely to become more within this region as time goes by. And then the other thing that would be an issue as far as lead poisoning is concerned is the issue of cancers of different organisms. We are looking at a lake whose natural ecosystem has already been tampered with. And so the microorganisms that would thrive or grow in a certain way have been modified because of the conditions of the heavy metals in the water and the microplastics. So these microorganisms may end up being modified to be worse organisms in terms of human health. For example, if we have an organism that causes typhoid, usually called Salmonella typhi, but we would treat it with the normal available antibiotics. But now, because of the changed environment where it lives, chances of it responding to the usual medication that we have always used have also been compromised. And so we are looking at a time when the available microorganisms would not function the way they have functioned in the past. If you've lived around Kisumu for some time, you'll notice that I think for the past 2 years or so, there has been a very bad stench coming from the Busia, or when you approach between the lake and between town and the airport, or at times even towards Otonglo. You'll notice a very bad stench depending on where the wind is blowing. And so chances of us being us inhaling even those microplastic and other chemicals because of a compromised water ecosystem are very high. And so we are looking to a time when we may have issues to do with our respiratory system, and that is generally around the our lung health.
Yet, within this adversity, resilience blooms. Policies and regulations are in place to curb this menace. Authorities are taking steps to hold those accountable for their actions.
So what we are doing currently in terms of the slum belt, people that are in the slum belt, when I talk about the slum belt, I talk about Nyalenda, Manyata, Obunga, Kaloleni and Kondele. What we are doing as a county is that we are providing the skips where they can dump their waste. If you go along the Nyalenda ring road, you will see the skips along the ring road. Currently we have 4 where people can bring their waste and they dump their waste. Now the solid waste was devolved to the county, but other component of waste is still under NEMA. We are working with them together. We are working with the EMCA, Environmental Management Coordination Act of 2015, which was of 1999, which was revised from 2015. Those are regulations from NEMA and everything. So we are working with those within the act and the regulation. We also have the National Sustainable Waste Management Act of 2022, which also encourages the circular economy.
NEMA is on the verge of officially enacting the Extended Producer Responsibility Regulations following the Waste Management Act. These regulations will be applicable at both the national and county levels, with NEMA serving in the capacity of oversight and the counties handling implementation.
NEMA, together with the Ministry of Environment, is soon gazetting the Extended Producer Responsibility Regulations. That is after the Waste Management Act was enacted. And when we're talking about waste management, we are talking about after generation. How are you collecting it? How are you storing it, collecting? How is it transported? And how is it treated or disposed at the end of it? So in all of these processes of waste management, you'll find that the National Environment Management Authority has the role to oversee and to regulate. When it relates to the county government, now the county government becomes an implementer in terms of implementing the requirements of waste management by ensuring that maybe they provide transport infrastructure or collection infrastructure, but also disposal and treatment. But our focus is now getting out on, we call it to cradle to grave, that people will just use something and dump it. But waste is also a resource.
While the county government has established policies, some are still in the process of refinement to address existing gaps. Nevertheless, there is ongoing implementation of these policies, including those suggested by NEMA. Notably, there is a focus on the establishment of material recovery centers in each sub-county as part of these efforts.
So basically this is an area where you can bring your recyclables from the household, then you are being paid something. But the waste that cannot be recycled, we are providing a receptacle, that's the skips, where they can dump their waste. We are working very well with the private waste actors in these areas, because all these material recovery centers that I'm talking about, the private waste, ours as a county is to build
and to oversee the operations of the centers. But the management falls within the community, the private waste actors. They're the people that are managing this center. We want the community to own these centers, to know that these centers belong to them for waste management. They can bring waste and manage the waste. And so far, we have already built 5. Out of 5, 2 are fully operational. We are built in Otongolo, we are built in Market Milimani Ward, we are built in Kondele, we are built in Manyata, and we are built in Obunga. These centers are not only going to receive the recyclables, we are also going to have what we call the value add to the materials. We have the balers and the crushers. Like in Maendeleo, we have already built the house for balers and crushers that already we have at the works yard. They are going to bring into those centers, so they are going to work in those centers.
Ownership forms the nucleus of restoration endeavors. Local communities are urged to establish environmental groups and village associations to engage actively in the preservation of their invaluable lake.
There was a scientist known as Pomeroy, I think in 2000. He initiated what we are calling community-based conservation groups. And these conservation groups, we have even fishermen are having them in the name of BMUs. We have water resource users that are also coming up. But you know, when this guy developed this concept, people misunderstood what he was after. These water resource groups have now become more political. They have left their role. So what we are saying is that county government should also come in to review these community initiatives in terms of what is their hierarchy, whom they report to, and how do they work, and what are the objectives, and are they actually in place, and are they working?
As it is now, environmental inspectors are thinly spread out across the country. It is not possible for them to monitor each and every place, as the way we would have compared to how it was when we had the public health officers. I think they were called Borafia, when we had them across.
I talk about the ward management, environmental management committees. These are consist of the private waste actors, the local administrators, the representatives from the county government. So basically, it's help in the waste management at the ward level. They offer education to the people for proper waste management. They also offer education to the people at the ward level, and also they help to solve the grievances that may arise in terms of waste management.
Through well-structured frameworks, these groups can draft bylaws and present them to the county assembly for official approval. Their instrumental role lies in advocating for crucial budgetary allocations from the county to bolster and sustain conservation initiatives.
We need to see how these conservation groups can have bylaws, they are educated, and from Bomaray's point of view, he thought that if you are the owner of a resource, you will police it better than a government officer coming to do what? To police you.
As people who are leading this particular process, one of the things we'd want to see change is community getting to know and understand their role in terms of influencing policies, including at the budget level, because we know for sure there's little or very minimal finance towards the development of some of that infrastructure that has hindered continuous process when it comes to service delivery. And then as a community, then we need to employ our people to come on board to participate when the budget process is on, so that they get to voice out and be part of this process, so that the implementing authorities and duty bearers have them in place. There's a lot of miscommunication or misinformation, and this is the information we need to demystify completely. When people are talking about, for instance, the hyacinth, that it has some beneficial, yet this is something that we know by now it's thriving in a polluted environment. And again, those are the things that we need to pursue with the community when we are doing that. It's the activities that has actually ensured that there's a lot of pollution that is getting into our resources that we have. Key goals is to ensure that as we implement this particular project, that we will lobby also other partners and like-minded partners to come on board, so that we are able to engage in a more constructive way, so that when it comes to sustainability
of our community and our rivers and our resources, whatever that we have, that we can be able to have a collective approach when it comes to cleaning, reduced pollution, and again, the 3 R's, that is the recycling, the reusing, and and reduction, is very key for us. So we would want to see a lot of campaigns even as we engage across with other people.
Tainted Waters is a call to action. It compels us to recognize our shared responsibility in safeguarding the environment. We must actively pursue behavioral change, adopting eco-friendly practices that make a real difference. From reducing usage of various pollutants to responsibly disposing of waste and conserving ecosystems, each small action contributes to the restoration of these waterways and ultimately the lake they feed into.